All right, so section 6.6, evaluating rational exponent expressions. Basically, what they want us to do is they're going to be giving us problems where they're going to show us like numbers and letters to a fractional power. So remember, we did that in the quiz yesterday, but they're going to want us to simplify stuff now. So now we're actually going to be able to break stuff down, not just rewrite and be done. Like now we're going to rewrite and then work it out. Okay, so just to show you a quick example, like something like this, right now we'll go back up to the top, but a question like this, we're not just going to rewrite it as a cube root of 216 to the fourth power. We're actually going to figure out what it is, okay? So, but we'll get back to that. But let me just go over these three ideas that we should know by now, okay? Number one, we should know that x to the p over I power, a fractional power, can be rewritten as a radical, okay, with index I and power p. So we just did that on the test, right? So we did number one just recently. Number two, whenever you have two things multiplied together and they're in a parenthesis, and there's a power on the outside, you can distribute that power to both of the terms. So notice x times y to the nth power becomes x to the n, y to the n. That's important because when we get to the back of your homework where there's numbers and letters, you're going to want to break this apart and do the numbers with your calculator, but the letters you can't do on a calculator. So those we're going to do by hand. Okay? So you'll notice when I do this stuff, I'll put, for those examples, some of it can kind of be done with a calculator, right? I'll put that on the instructions so you can see. And then the third one is what happens when you take a power and you raise it to a power. Well, a power raised to a power is a product. Okay, so I always think of it as PPP. Power to a power is a product. So you multiply them. Okay, so n times m occurs because I took the power of n and I raised it to the power of m. So if I had like x squared squared, that's 2 times 2. So that's x to the fourth. If I had x cubed to the fourth, that's x to the 12th, because 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so so raising powers to powers, you use a product. Okay, you're going to multiply. So, by the way, numbers 2 and 3, these are algebra 1 properties. Okay, so that's math 1. So I just want to remind you. Now notice right here, I put simplify. These can all be done by calculator. Okay, now I'm not going to do it by calculator just so you can see what would happen in case you forget how. I want you guys to see what it looks like doing it by hand. But we can still use a little bit of calculator. But you can do these completely with calculator. The way you would do it, let's just kind of do this really quick. You're going to get your calculator. You're going to type in 216. Okay, so 216, that's what I did on this one, 216. Now on this calculator, there's a button that has x to the box. You guys see that? It's right about the middle, right about here. It says x to the box. All right, so I'll kind of write this out for us. Let me use a different color way out here. So I would type in 216. Then I'll press this button, x to the box. Okay? And when I do that, on my screen it says 216, and now there's like an empty box as a power, right? So I'm just going to type in the power of 4/3. So I'm going to put 4, and then this button. It looks like a box over a box, a fraction button. Okay? And then hit 3, and then hit enter. Or equals, sorry. What does it give you? 1296. That's my answer. Okay? That's all I have to do to get example 1 done. Just use this. Know how to use my calculator. Okay? How do I do it if I don't want to just use the calculator to do everything? Well, let me just show you in case you ever are kind of in a bind here. You're still going to have to use a calculator, just so you know. But this is what would happen. You're supposed to rewrite this, okay? 216 to the 4/3 power is the cubed root of 216 to the 4th. Again, we just did this yesterday, right? What is the cubed root of 216? You guys should know how to do that. That's on your calculator, so let's do it. The cubed root, I'm going to press shift square root. I see cubed root pops up. 216 comes out to what? 6. And what's 6 to the 4th power? So I'm going to put 6 to the 4th power. That's 1296. Same answer. But notice in this case, I use my properties to work it out. Okay? I rewrote it as a radical, and then I just used my calculator to help me simplify. Okay? Now, what was easier, personally, the stuff in green, right? I didn't have to do any work. Okay? I just kind of punched everything in and boom, threw it out. Okay? The stuff in red just shows you the work that you would have to do. Okay? But you still need a calculator. Okay? But that just shows you the work that you're going to have to do if you don't want to just punch in all the numbers. Now, I'm assuming most of you guys are going to go the green route, not the red route. Now, eventually, you're going to have to do the red route when we get to the examples 4, 5, and 6, because we're going to have variables. Okay? But for now, the first 3, all calculator based. Okay? But I am going to do them by writing them out. But feel free to test it out, make sure we get the right answers. All right, so example number 2 is 81 to the 5/4. Okay, if I rewrite it as a radical, this is the 4th root of 81 to the 5th power. And again, you can just type this on your calculator and be done. But I'm just showing you the breakdown. Now the 4th root of 81, that's, what is that? Try it on your calculator. Yeah, the 4th root of 81 is 3. Okay, 3. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Because 3 times 3 is 9, the other 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 9 is 81. So, this comes out 3 to the 5th, right? And then 3 to the 5th, well, that's, 3 to the 4th is 81, so 81 times 3 is 243. So, this is 243. Now, do me a favor, because we just got the answer for this. Try doing it the way where you only use your calculator, okay? And make sure you get 243, okay? That way you're testing yourself, like, do you know how to use this? So I'm going to type in 81 to the power of 5/4, and I got 243. So I know how to use my calculator for these problems. Because the worst thing is not knowing how to use a calculator when this is supposed to be like your life raft, right? The worst thing is putting stuff in wrong, getting things wrong when you should be definitely not missing anything. So, all right, here we go. Last example here for this type with only calculator. So example number 3, 64 to the 7/6 power. Okay? So if I rewrite it, this would be the 6th root of 64, which I think is 2, all to the 7th. So the 6th root of 64, that would be 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 times 2, because 8 times 8 is 64. So that's 2 in here to the 7th power. Okay, 2 to the 7th is 128. So check that. Make sure you guys get that. Right? Try putting that on your calculator. Make sure that you can type in 64 to the 7/6 power, and it can give you that answer. If you want to try working it out the other way, the way I'm doing it right there, just punch in the numbers. Make sure you can do it, okay? Yeah, calculators can do a lot of cool little shortcuts for you, but there's so many people that they buy. You know, this one isn't even that complicated. I have people that buy like those $180 ones, and all they do with them is like add and subtract, multiply, divide, and I'm like, dude, you don't even know. Like, you can graph, you can find slopes and derivatives and integrate. You can do all this really cool stuff with it, but they spend so much money just to add and subtract, right? They don't even know how to do their square roots on it, right? Because they don't come with manuals anymore anyway. But I mean, people don't go on YouTube to learn and stuff like that on these things. So that's what I tell my calculus kids all the time. I'm like, when you don't know how to do something, look it up on YouTube. That's your instruction there. So All right, last three examples. So this one says simplify. These can kind of be done by calculator. Okay. Um, Example 4 cannot be done with a calculator. Okay. So when I say kind of, it's because there's going to be a number there, a number and a letter. But right now it's just a letter. So if you just have a variable, then your calculator cannot do it. Okay, you're going to have to do this by hand. If you have a number with variables, then your calculator can do the number part, but not the variable part. Okay? So, I see v to the 6th raised to the 3 halves. A power to a power. What happens with a power to a power? They got to multiply them. So look what I'm going to do. I'm going to write v to the 6 times 3 halves. Well, what's v to the 6 times 3 halves? So I'm just going to put 6 times 3 halves. What do I get? Now, I'm not typing in v, by the way. I'm just doing 6 times 3 halves. 9. And I'm done. They just want us to simplify it as much as possible. Okay? So there you go. I took my power to a power, reduced, well, not reduced, but I guess I did reduce. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 3 times 3 is 9. But I fixed it up and I got my answer. So it's not bad. It's not too terrible. I just got to remember my property. All right, now this one you can kind of use your calculator to do some of the work for you. So you see 343 v to the 6th to the 4/3 power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that power, because notice there's two things being multiplied inside. 343 times v to the 6th. So there's two things being multiplied. And then I see a power on the outside. According to the recall number 2, that I think it was number 2, let me go back and check. Yeah, if you have two things multiplying or more, you can have more than two, and there's a power on the outside, you can distribute that power to everything inside. Now, they have to be multiplying, not adding, not subtracting, multiplying. So, that means I can rewrite this 343 to the 4/3 and v to the 6th to the 4/3. Now the left side, 343 to the 4/3, you can just type that into your calculator and it should give you an answer. Okay? We'll work it out by hand, of course, right? Do as much as we can by hand just in case. But you can just type that in. Now v to the 6 to the 4/3, I can't punch that in here, but let me rewrite this, okay? Again, this part right here, you can just get your calculator and give me an answer. What is the answer to that? Does anybody know? 343 to the 4/3? 24? Oh, 2401. Okay, so I'll remember that. So 2401. This is, whoops, why did I erase that? The next part was supposed to be, this is cubed root of 343 to the 4th. Again, I'm just simplifying it by hand. And then the other part would be v to the 6 times 4/3, okay? This is an extra step. You don't have to write this one out, but if you want to see it. All right, the cube root of 343. What is that? Not 2401, but cube root of 343 is 7 to the 4th. Okay? And then v to the 6 times 4/3, what is that? It's 6 times 4/3. You need less than 2 hands, but more than 1. 8. All right. So there we go. Now 7 to the 4th, that is 2401. V to the 8th. And we're done. So notice, you could use your calculator completely to find 343 to the 4/3. You didn't have to go through all the steps that I did. I'm just showing you how to do it by hand, in case you don't have one of these calculators that can do this. And then the multiplication part, I mean, you actually don't even need a calculator for that. 6 times 4/3, you might be able to do it in your head, right? 6 times 4 is 24, divided by 3 is 8. So you could have done that in your head as well. But feel free to use a calculator. We got one more of this. I'm trying to do the ones that look scary. This is the scariest looking one. And they look scary, but they're not terrible. I think your answer is 100 and squared, but I'm not sure. I think it is. So we have 1,000 n to the third to the 2/3 power. Notice a product on the inside taken to a power. That means you got to distribute that power. So this is going to be 1,000 to the 2/3 n cubed to the 2/3. What's 1,000 to the 2/3? It's 100, right? Okay. So it's 100. Okay. So let me just write it out. If you're doing it by hand, and this would be n to the 3 times 2/3. Okay. Because remember, you multiply powers to powers. Now, the cubed root of 1,000, that's 10. And I'm going to square that. 3 times 2/3 is what? 2. Right? And 10 squared is 100. So it's 100 n squared. There you go. This is what your homework is like.